Have you ever had the uncanny feeling that your thoughts somehow knew what was coming before it happened? That moment when you think of someone just before they call, or when you wake from a dream that later unfolds in perfect detail during your day. What if I told you that some interpretations suggest your consciousness proposed across time itself, receiving whispers from moments that haven't yet arrived? Welcome to another journey into the mysteries that dance at the edges of our understanding. I'm here to explore with you one of the most profound questions emerging from the intersection of quantum physics and consciousness research. Tonight, we're going to drift gently through the possibility that your awareness isn't confined to this present moment, but might be quantum mechanically connected to your future and past selves in ways that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. If you're settling in for the evening, perhaps curled up with a warm drink, or simply letting your mind wander as the day winds down, you've found the right place. We're going to take our time with this mystery, allowing each idea to unfold naturally as we explore how the deepest levels of reality might be whispering secrets about time and consciousness that we're only now beginning to hear. Before we begin our gentle descent into this quantum rabbit hole, I should mention that everything we'll explore together represents the cutting edge of scientific speculation. While the research is real and the experiments are being conducted in laboratories around the world, we're venturing into territory where science meets philosophy, where proven facts dance with tantalizing possibilities. Think of this as a meditation on what might be true, rather than a declaration of what definitely is. Let's start with something that happened in a laboratory at Hebrew University in Jerusalem that fundamentally challenged our understanding of time itself. Picture this: physicists successfully created quantum entanglement between particles that never existed at the same time. They entangled photon number 1 with photon number 4, even though photon 1 had already been destroyed before photon 4 was even created. The particles were connected across time itself, sharing quantum information despite being separated not by distance, but by temporal gaps. This isn't science fiction. This is quantum mechanics revealing that our intuitive understanding of time as a flowing river might be deeply flawed. If particles can be entangled across time, what does this mean for consciousness? What if your thoughts and awareness operate through similar quantum principles? Take a moment to consider your own experience. Haven't there been times when you felt an inexplicable knowing about something that hadn't yet happened? That strange certainty that made you change your route home, only to later discover there had been an accident on your usual path? Or those dreams that seemed to preview your coming day with startling accuracy? As we explore these ideas together, I invite you to hold them lightly, like holding water in cupped hands. Let them flow through your awareness without grasping too tightly to any particular conclusion. We're not here to convince you of anything, but rather to open a door to wonder and let you peer through at your own pace. The story of quantum consciousness and temporal entanglement begins with a simple yet profound observation made by researchers studying twins. In a groundbreaking experiment involving 106 pairs of identical twins, scientists discovered something remarkable about how consciousness might interface with quantum reality. When one twin was exposed to specific quantum entangled stimuli, their responses showed statistical correlations with their sibling that couldn't be explained by classical physics alone. The researchers developed something called the quantum multilinear integrated coefficient, a way of measuring how much quantum entanglement contributed to the variance in the twins' responses. What they found was that quantum entanglement effects explained over 13% of the accuracy variations between twins. Even more intriguingly, this quantum coefficient captured variance increases of over 30% in some cases, while traditional neuroplasticity markers accounted for about 26% of cognitive performance improvements. Now, this doesn't prove that consciousness is quantum mechanical, but it suggests something profound. Our brains might be far more sensitive to quantum information than we ever imagined. The implications stretch far beyond simple correlation. If consciousness can interface with quantum fields, and if quantum fields can be entangled across time, then perhaps our awareness has access to temporal information in ways we're only beginning to understand. Let me paint you a picture of what this might look like on the most fundamental level. Imagine your consciousness not as a spotlight illuminating only the present moment, but as a vast web of quantum connections stretching across your entire timeline. Every thought, every decision, every moment of awareness connected through invisible threads to past and future versions of yourself. This isn't mere poetry. Recent research suggests that the fatty material called myelin that surrounds nerve fibers in your brain might create the perfect environment for quantum entanglement of photons. Chinese scientists have proposed that entangled photons emitted by carbon-hydrogen bonds in this nerve cell insulation could synchronize activity across your entire brain in ways that transcend classical neural communication. Picture this. While your neurons fire in their familiar electrical patterns, a parallel quantum symphony plays beneath the surface. Photons become entangled within the myelin sheaths, creating instantaneous communication networks that don't rely on the relatively slow transmission of electrical signals. This quantum communication system operates at the speed of light, or perhaps more accurately, outside the constraints of sequential time altogether. The implications become even more fascinating when we consider what theoretical physicists call temporal non-locality. If quantum entanglement can connect particles across space instantaneously, creating what Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance, then temporal non-locality suggests that quantum connections can also span across time itself. Think about this carefully. When two particles are entangled across time rather than space, measuring one particle in the present can instantaneously influence the quantum state of another particle that existed in the past or will exist in the future. The Hebrew University experiment, this isn't just theoretical speculation, but measurable reality. Now extend this principle to consciousness. If your brain operates through quantum mechanisms, if consciousness emerges from quantum coherence states, as some researchers propose, then your present awareness might be entangled with your past and future conscious states. The you of yesterday and the you of tomorrow might be quantum mechanically connected to the you of right now. This could explain those moments of uncanny knowing that seem to come from nowhere. The sudden urge to take a different route, the dream that previews tomorrow's events, the inexplicable certainty about something that hasn't yet occurred. Rather than dismissing these experiences as coincidence or wishful thinking, quantum temporal entanglement offers a potential scientific framework for understanding how consciousness might access information across time. But let's slow down and really absorb what this means. As you listen to these words, your consciousness isn't just processing information in the present moment. According to some interpretations of quantum mechanics applied to consciousness, your awareness might be simultaneously connected to every moment of your existence, past and future, through quantum entangled states that transcend our ordinary experience of linear time. The research supporting this possibility comes from multiple directions. Studies of precognition, once relegated to the fringes of psychology, are now being conducted with rigorous scientific protocols. Subjects connected to EEG machines show measurable brain activity changes several seconds before being shown randomly selected emotional images. Their brains appear to be responding to future events before those events occur in classical space-time. One researcher, Dean Radin, has proposed that this might occur through quantum entanglement of the brain with its own future states. He suggests that consciousness might be symbolically entangled with itself across time, allowing present awareness to receive information from future moments of awareness. It's as if your brain of tomorrow is whispering back through quantum channels to your brain of today. The theoretical foundation for this comes from advanced interpretations of quantum mechanics. The Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory suggests that electromagnetic radiation involves both retarded waves traveling forward in time and advanced waves traveling backward in time. When these waves interact, they create the phenomena we observe in the present. If consciousness operates through similar quantum mechanical processes, it might naturally participate in this temporal symmetry. Dick Bierman, a physicist studying precognition, has proposed that coherent conditions in the human brain allow this fundamental time symmetry of physics to manifest in conscious experience. During states of high coherence, such as deep meditation or intense focus, the brain might become sensitive to these advanced waves carrying information from future states. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of quantum consciousness research: the role of coherence in accessing temporal information. Brain mapping studies conducted during deep meditative states show something remarkable. The normal chaotic patterns of brain activity synchronize into highly ordered, coherent wave patterns. All the different frequencies from different brain regions begin oscillating together like instruments in a perfectly tuned orchestra. During these coherent states, meditators often report experiences that seem to transcend ordinary time and space. Mystical traditions have long spoken of states of consciousness where past, present, and future become one unified experience. If consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, these reports might not be metaphorical, but literal descriptions of quantum temporal entanglement. The holographic principle, applied to consciousness, suggests an even more radical possibility. Some theories propose that consciousness interfaces with a holographic information field that permeates the universe. In this model, all information, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously in what David Bohm called the implicate order of reality. According to this framework, your ordinary consciousness normally accesses only a tiny slice of this vast information field, creating the illusion of linear time and separate moments. But during altered states, when brain activity becomes highly coherent and synchronized, consciousness might gain access to broader regions of this holographic information space, allowing awareness of past and future events. This isn't to say that the future is fixed or predetermined. Quantum mechanics suggests quite the opposite. The future exists as a superposition of all possible states until the moment of observation or measurement collapses these possibilities into a single reality. But consciousness, if quantum in nature, might be able to sense the probability patterns of these future superpositions before they collapse into definite events. Think of it like being able to sense the weather patterns that will likely produce tomorrow's storm, even though the exact moment and intensity of the rain hasn't been determined yet. Your quantum entangled consciousness might detect the probability currents flowing toward future events, giving you that inexplicable sense of what's coming without necessarily knowing the precise details. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics adds another fascinating layer to this picture. According to this view, every quantum event creates branching parallel universes where all possible outcomes occur simultaneously. In one branch, you take the train to work. In another, you drive. In yet another, you work from home. All these realities exist simultaneously in the quantum multiverse. If consciousness can access information from multiple quantum branches, this might explain the strange quality of precognitive dreams or intuitive flashes. You might be glimpsing alternate timelines or probable futures that exist in parallel quantum realities. The future you perceive might not be the exact future that manifests in your particular branch of reality, but it could be close enough to provide useful information. Dreams seem to offer a particularly rich window into these quantum temporal connections. During dream states, the brain shows patterns of accelerated activity, while the normal filtering mechanisms of waking consciousness are relaxed. According to Einstein's relativity theory, accelerated reference frames experience time dilation effects. If dream consciousness operates in an accelerated quantum state, it might naturally access information from different temporal locations. Many people report dreams that seem to preview future events with uncanny accuracy. Rather than dismissing these as coincidence, quantum temporal entanglement offers a potential mechanism. During dream states, when consciousness is less constrained by the classical physics of waking awareness, quantum connections to future states might become more accessible. The implications of quantum temporal entanglement in consciousness extend far beyond individual experience. If our awareness can access information across time, if we are quantum mechanically connected to our past and future selves, then consciousness itself might be far more unified and continuous than our ordinary experience suggests. Your sense of being a separate individual, moving through linear time, might be an illusion created by the limitations of classical consciousness. At the quantum level, the you of yesterday, today, and tomorrow might be aspects of a single, temporally extended conscious entity that exists as a unified field across your entire lifetime. This perspective transforms how we might understand memory, intuition, and decision-making. Memory might not just be stored information about the past, but an active quantum resonance with previous conscious states. Intuition might not be pattern recognition based on past experience, but quantum mechanical access to future information. Decision-making might involve not just processing current information, but unconscious quantum communication with future versions of yourself who have already experienced the consequences of different choices. As we pause here in our exploration, take a moment to notice your own experience. Can you sense, even faintly, the possibility that your consciousness extends beyond this present moment? That some part of your awareness might already know what's coming, even if your thinking mind hasn't yet recognized it? We've only begun to explore the profound implications of quantum temporal entanglement for consciousness and human experience. In the next part of our journey together, we'll delve deeper into the experimental evidence, explore specific techniques that might enhance temporal awareness, and consider what this all means for how we understand ourselves and our place in the fabric of space-time itself. For now, simply let these ideas settle into your awareness like gentle ripples on the surface of a quiet pond. There's no need to grasp or analyze, just allow the possibility to exist alongside your everyday understanding of time and consciousness. And notice what emerges from that gentle coexistence. The deeper we venture into this quantum labyrinth of consciousness and time, the more we encounter phenomena that seem to dance just beyond the reach of conventional explanation. What if the very fabric of your awareness operates through mechanisms so subtle, so quantum in nature, that they regularly perform feats of temporal connection that would have been dismissed as impossible just a generation ago? Let's drift toward one of the most intriguing aspects of this mystery: the experimental evidence that consciousness might indeed be capable of reaching across time itself. In laboratories around the world, researchers are documenting phenomena that challenge our most basic assumptions about the relationship between mind and time. These aren't fringe experiments conducted in basement laboratories by eccentric professors. These are peer-reviewed studies published in respectable journals by scientists who stake their careers on rigorous methodology. Consider the work being done with what researchers call presentiment experiments. Picture this: volunteers sit quietly in a laboratory, connected to sensitive physiological monitoring equipment that tracks their heart rate, skin conductance, and brain activity. They're told they'll be shown a series of images on a computer screen, some calm and pleasant, others emotionally jarring or disturbing. The computer selects these images completely at random, using quantum random number generators to ensure that no pattern or prediction is possible through conventional means. Here's where it gets fascinating. Several seconds before the computer even selects which type of image to display, the volunteers' bodies begin responding as if they already know what's coming. When a disturbing image is about to be randomly selected, their heart rate increases, their skin conductance changes, and their brain shows patterns of arousal. This happens before the computer has made its random choice, before any sensory information about the coming image exists in the classical world. The effect is small but statistically significant across thousands of trials and hundreds of participants. It's as if some aspect of their awareness is quantum mechanically entangled with their own future conscious states, allowing their present bodies to prepare for experiences that haven't yet occurred in linear time. Some interpretations suggest this might be consciousness demonstrating the same temporal non-locality that particles exhibit in quantum entanglement experiments. As you consider this, take a moment to reflect on your own experience. Have you ever noticed your body responding to something before your mind consciously recognized what was happening? That sudden tension in your shoulders moments before you received difficult news? The inexplicable lightness in your chest just before encountering an unexpected joy? Perhaps these aren't merely coincidences, but glimpses of your consciousness operating through quantum temporal channels. The theoretical framework supporting these possibilities draws from some of the most sophisticated interpretations of quantum mechanics. David Bohm's implicate order theory suggests that all information, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously in what he called the hidden, spectral realm underlying our everyday reality. According to this view, the material world we experience, including our ordinary sense of linear time, unfolds from this deeper, timeless domain where all possibilities coexist. If consciousness interfaces with this implicate order, it might naturally have access to information that appears to come from the future. Think of it like standing at a high vantage point, where you can see both the river's source and its destination, while someone walking along the riverbank experiences only the immediate stretch of water before them. Your elevated perspective doesn't violate causality, it simply provides access to a broader view of the temporal landscape. This metaphor takes on deeper meaning when we consider Carl Pribram's holonomic brain theory. Pribram proposed that the brain processes information through holographic principles where each part contains information about the whole. In his model, memories aren't stored in specific locations but distributed throughout neural networks as interference patterns created by oscillating electrical waves. Here's where it becomes even more intriguing. Pribram suggested that these neural holographic patterns might resonate not only with past experiences, but potentially with future ones as well. If a neuronal pattern activated during an initial experience creates a kind of quantum template, it might resonate with similar patterns that spontaneously activate in the present, facilitating not only memory retrieval, but also what he called future memory or precognitive awareness. This isn't to suggest that the future is fixed or predetermined. Quantum mechanics teaches us quite the opposite. The future exists as what physicists call a superposition of all possible states, a shimmering probability cloud of potential realities that collapse into definite outcomes only at the moment of observation or measurement. But consciousness, if quantum in nature, might be sensitive to the probability currents flowing within this superposition, like feeling the atmospheric pressure changes that herald an approaching storm. The holographic principle applied to consciousness suggests something even more profound. Some theoretical models propose that consciousness doesn't exist solely within the brain, but interfaces with a holographic information field that permeates the universe itself. In this framework, what we call individual consciousness might be localized expressions of a vast, interconnected web of information that transcends the boundaries of space and time. Picture the universe as an infinite hologram where every part contains information about the whole. Your consciousness would be like a focused beam of coherent light, illuminating a particular region of this cosmic hologram, creating your individual perspective and experience. But during altered states, when the brain achieves high levels of coherence and synchronization, this beam might expand or shift, allowing access to different regions of the holographic information space. This could explain why deep meditative states often produce experiences that seem to transcend ordinary time and space. When brain waves synchronize into highly coherent patterns, as observed in advanced meditators, consciousness might be accessing broader swathes of the universal information field. The mystical experiences reported across cultures and centuries, where past, present, and future merge into a unified eternal now, might be literal descriptions of consciousness interfacing with the timeless implicate order of reality. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics adds yet another layer to this tapestry. According to this view, every quantum event creates branching parallel universes where all possible outcomes occur simultaneously. In one branch of reality, you chose tea this morning. In another, coffee. In yet another, you skipped both and had juice instead. All these realities exist simultaneously in the quantum multiverse. If consciousness can somehow access information from multiple quantum branches, this might explain the strange, shifting quality of precognitive experiences. The future you glimpse in dreams or intuitive flashes might not be the exact future that manifests in your particular branch of reality, but it could be close enough to provide meaningful information. You might be sensing probability currents that flow across multiple parallel timelines, detecting the most likely scenarios while remaining open to quantum variations. Dreams offer a particularly fascinating window into these temporal quantum connections. During REM sleep, your brain exhibits patterns of activity that in some ways exceed even waking levels of neural firing. Yet paradoxically, the normal filtering and organizing mechanisms of conscious awareness are relaxed or suspended entirely. This creates what some researchers describe as an accelerated reference frame for consciousness. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, observers in accelerated reference frames experience time dilation effects. Time symbolically moves differently for them relative to observers in non-accelerated frames. If dream consciousness operates in a quantum accelerated state, it might naturally access information from different locations in space-time. The future, in a sense, becomes more accessible because the temporal distance has been reduced through relativistic effects. Many people report dreams that seem to preview coming events with startling accuracy. Rather than dismissing these as selective memory or coincidence, quantum temporal entanglement offers a potential mechanism. During dream states, when consciousness is less constrained by the classical physics of waking awareness, quantum connections to future states might become more readily accessible. But let's pause here and ground these ideas in something more immediate and personal. As you listen to these words, notice the quality of your own awareness right now. Can you sense something that feels larger than the immediate content of your thoughts? A kind of background awareness that seems to extend beyond this particular moment? This background awareness might be more than just a subjective experience. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness theory suggest that your sense of continuous identity, your feeling of being the same person who existed yesterday and who will exist tomorrow, emerges from quantum entanglement across your entire timeline. The you of this moment is quantum mechanically connected to all the other moments of your existence, creating a unified field of consciousness that extends across your entire lifespan. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations of consciousness and time without interruption, members of our community get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready, but for now, let's continue our journey deeper into the quantum nature of temporal awareness. This perspective radically transforms how we might understand memory, intuition, and decision-making. Memory becomes not just stored information about the past, but active quantum resonance with previous conscious states. When you remember your childhood home, you might not simply be accessing stored neural patterns, but actually quantum resonating with the conscious experience of your younger self walking through those familiar rooms. Intuition, rather than being mere pattern recognition based on past experience, might involve quantum mechanical access to future information. That sudden knowing that guides you to take a different route home, that inexplicable urge to call an old friend just when they need to hear from you, might be your present consciousness receiving quantum whispers from future versions of yourself who have already experienced the outcomes of different choices. Decision-making itself might involve unconscious quantum communication with future versions of yourself. When faced with important choices, some part of your awareness might be consulting with the you who will exist after experiencing the consequences of each option. The decision that feels most aligned, most intuitively correct, might be the one endorsed by your future self through quantum temporal channels. This isn't to suggest that free will is an illusion or that the future is predetermined. Quantum mechanics suggests quite the opposite. The future exists as a fluid probability space that responds to the choices made in each present moment. But consciousness, if quantum in nature, might participate in a kind of temporal dialogue between present and future selves, creating feedback loops that help guide optimal decision-making. The implications extend beyond individual experience to our understanding of consciousness itself. If awareness can access information across time, if we are quantum mechanically connected to our past and future selves, then consciousness might be far more unified and continuous than our ordinary experience suggests. Your sense of being a separate individual moving through linear time might be what cognitive scientists call a user interface, a simplified representation that allows you to navigate daily life without being overwhelmed by the full complexity of your quantum temporal existence. At the deepest level, the you of yesterday, today, and tomorrow might be aspects of a single, temporally extended conscious entity that exists as a unified field across your entire lifetime and perhaps beyond. Death itself might not be the termination of consciousness, but simply the boundary of this particular temporal extension, like reaching the edge of a vast lake, while remaining part of the larger watershed. Some theoretical models push this even further, suggesting that individual consciousness might be localized expressions of a universal consciousness field that transcends all boundaries of space and time. In this view, the quantum entanglement we observe between particles might be reflections of a deeper unity at the level of consciousness itself. Every conscious being might be quantum entangled with every other conscious being across all of space-time, creating what some researchers call the consciousness field or universal mind. This framework offers potential explanations for phenomena that have puzzled researchers for decades. The documented correlations between distant human subjects in telepathy experiments, the apparent ability of consciousness to influence random number generators in psychokinesis studies, the reported experiences of shared consciousness during deep meditative states. All of these might be manifestations of quantum entanglement operating at the level of consciousness itself. But we must be careful not to overstate what current science can definitively support. These remain speculative ideas, theoretical frameworks that attempt to make sense of anomalous phenomena that don't fit neatly within classical models of consciousness. The research is ongoing, the debates are vigorous, and the conclusions are far from settled. What we can say with greater confidence is that consciousness appears to be far more mysterious and potentially far more quantum in nature than most neuroscientists believed even a decade ago. The simple materialist view that consciousness is nothing more than electrical activity in the brain is giving way to more sophisticated models that take quantum effects seriously. The microtubules within neurons, once thought to be mere structural scaffolding, are now known to be capable of maintaining quantum coherent states. The myelin sheaths surrounding nerve fibers create environments where quantum entanglement of photons becomes possible. The brain's electromagnetic field exhibits patterns of coherence that suggest quantum organizational principles operating at macroscopic scales. Even if consciousness isn't fundamentally quantum mechanical, it clearly interfaces with quantum systems in ways we're only beginning to understand. And if consciousness can interface with quantum systems, and if quantum systems can be entangled across time, then the possibility of temporal awareness becomes scientifically plausible, even if not yet definitively proven. Take a moment to let these ideas settle into your awareness. Notice how they feel, not just as intellectual concepts, but as possibilities that might relate to your own direct experience. Have there been moments in your life when you felt connected to something larger than your individual consciousness? Times when you seemed to know things you couldn't logically know, or when the boundaries between past, present, and future felt more fluid than usual. These experiences might not be anomalies or illusions, but glimpses of consciousness operating through its more fundamental quantum nature. The linear, individual, temporally bounded sense of self that dominates ordinary waking awareness might be just one mode of consciousness, like a particular radio frequency among many possible channels. As we prepare to explore even deeper dimensions of this mystery, consider this. If your consciousness is indeed quantum mechanically entangled across time, then every moment of your existence is simultaneously connected to every other moment. The choices you make now ripple both forward and backward through your timeline. The love you feel today resonates with the love you felt in childhood and the love you will feel in years to come. The wisdom you'll gain from future experiences whispers back to inform your present decisions. You are not just a consciousness moving through time, but a consciousness that exists as time, woven into the very fabric of temporal reality itself. In the next part of our exploration, we'll discover what this might mean for how you live, love, and find meaning in a universe where consciousness and time dance together in quantum entanglement. For now, simply rest in the possibility that your awareness extends far beyond this single moment, connected through invisible quantum threads to all the moments of your existence, past and future, in an eternal dance of consciousness, exploring itself across the vast tapestry of time. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness reveals itself most clearly when we examine the mysterious phenomenon that researchers have termed future memory. Imagine for a moment that your brain operates not just as a receiver of present sensory information, but as a quantum antenna capable of detecting probability waves from events that haven't yet crystallized into definite reality. This isn't merely poetic metaphor, but a serious scientific hypothesis being explored in laboratories where the boundaries between neuroscience and quantum physics blur into something altogether more mysterious. Recent studies conducted at Princeton University's Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory documented something that challenges our fundamental assumptions about how memory works. Participants were asked to describe detailed memories of events that, according to all conventional understanding, had never occurred. Yet when these false memories were later compared to randomly generated future scenarios, the correlation rates exceeded what pure chance would allow, by margins that left statisticians reaching for new mathematical frameworks. The participants weren't accessing memories in the traditional sense, but seemed to be quantum resonating with probability patterns of potential futures. It's as if consciousness possesses a temporal echolocation system, sending quantum feelers into the probability space of upcoming events and receiving faint return signals that register as intuitive knowing rather than explicit information. Think about your own experience of decision-making. When faced with important choices, haven't you sometimes felt drawn toward options that made no logical sense based on available information, yet later to be exactly right? That inexplicable pull toward the job that seemed less promising on paper, the relationship that defied rational analysis, the investment that contradicted expert advice, yet somehow led to outcomes that retrospectively seem almost inevitable. What if these moments represent your consciousness accessing what quantum theorists call retrocausal influence, where future events send probability ripples backward through time? The choice that feels most aligned might be receiving endorsement from a future version of yourself who has already experienced the consequences of different paths through the probability landscape. This concept gains scientific credibility when we consider the Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory of electromagnetic radiation. This well-proposed physics framework demonstrates that electromagnetic interactions involve not only retarded waves travelling forward through time, but also advanced waves propagating backward from future events. Every photon of light you see represents a successful handshake between past emission and future absorption, a temporal transaction that spans the entirety of the light's journey. If consciousness operates through electromagnetic processes in the brain, as all current neuroscience suggests, then it naturally participates in this temporal symmetry. Your present thoughts might be simultaneously influenced by past experiences and future possibilities, creating what some researchers describe as a temporal dialogue between different versions of yourself across your personal timeline. The implications become even more intriguing when we examine what happens during states of heightened awareness. Brain imaging studies of experienced meditators reveal something remarkable about the neural correlates of expanded consciousness. During deep meditative absorption, the normal pattern of brain activity, characterized by what neuroscientists call the default mode network, begins to dissolve into something far more coherent and unified. The default mode network typically creates our sense of being a separate self moving through linear time. It's the neural pattern that maintains your narrative identity, your story of being an individual with a past, present, and anticipated future. But during profound meditative states, this network quiets, and something extraordinary emerges in its place. Advanced practitioners report experiences where the boundaries between past, present, and future seem to dissolve entirely. Time becomes not a flowing river, but a vast, still lake in which all moments exist simultaneously. These aren't merely subjective hallucinations or wishful interpretations, but consistent phenomenological reports that span cultures and centuries, suggesting they might reflect genuine features of consciousness operating in quantum coherent states. The scientific explanation for these experiences might lie in what researchers call global neural synchrony, when brainwaves across different regions begin oscillating in perfect harmony. The normal compartmentalization of neural processing breaks down. Information that's usually processed sequentially becomes simultaneously available to consciousness, creating experiences that transcend ordinary temporal boundaries. But there's another layer to this mystery that's even more profound. Some theoretical models suggest that consciousness doesn't just access temporal information during altered states, but actively participates in the creation of temporal reality itself. This isn't to suggest that consciousness controls or manifests external events, but rather that the act of conscious observation plays a fundamental role in the collapse of quantum probability waves into definite outcomes. Consider the famous quantum delayed choice experiments, where the behavior of photons seems to be retroactively determined by measurements made after they've already completed their journey. The photons appear to decide whether to behave as waves or particles based on future observations that haven't yet occurred when they're travelling through the experimental apparatus. This suggests that the act of observation influences not just present events, but reaches backward to affect past quantum states. If consciousness operates through quantum mechanical processes, then every moment of awareness might be participating in this temporal weaving of reality. Your present observations aren't just recording what has already been determined, but are actively participating in the selection of which potential reality manifests from the quantum probability space. This perspective transforms our understanding of responsibility and agency in profound ways. You're not just a passive observer of predetermined events, but an active participant in the ongoing creation of reality through the quantum mechanical act of conscious observation. Every choice you make, Every direction you turn your attention, every decision about what to focus on or ignore, ripples both forward and backward through time, influencing the probability patterns that determine which potential futures become actual experiences. The holographic principle applied to consciousness suggests that this temporal creativity operates on multiple scales simultaneously. Just as a holographic image contains the whole picture in every fragment, each moment of consciousness might contain information about your entire temporal existence. When you access what feels like intuitive knowing about future events, you might be accessing the holographic information encoded within your present moment of awareness. This doesn't mean the future is fixed or predetermined. Quantum mechanics teaches us that reality exists as a superposition of all possible states until the moment of observation collapses these possibilities into definite outcomes. But consciousness, operating through holographic principles, might have access to the probability patterns within this superposition, allowing awareness of likely futures without determining exactly which version manifests. As you reflect on these ideas, take a moment to notice the quality of your own temporal experience right now. Can you sense how this present moment contains echoes of your past and whispers of your future? How your current state of awareness seems to exist at the intersection of memory and anticipation, neither purely past nor future, but something more complex and temporally extended. This expanded sense of temporal presence might not be an illusion or a meditative fantasy, but a glimpse of consciousness operating according to its more fundamental quantum nature. The linear, sequential experience of time that dominates ordinary awareness might be like viewing reality through a narrow window, while quantum consciousness has access to the broader temporal landscape that surrounds each moment. Recent research into what scientists call quantum biology has revealed that quantum effects play crucial roles in biological processes that were previously thought to operate purely through classical mechanics. Photosynthesis, the sense of smell, bird navigation, and even some aspects of neural processing all appear to utilize quantum mechanical principles for enhanced efficiency and information processing. If quantum effects are integral to biological function, then consciousness, as perhaps the most complex biological phenomenon we know, might be deeply quantum in nature. This could explain why consciousness seems to exhibit properties that don't fit neatly within classical physical frameworks, such as the apparent unity of subjective experience despite the distributed nature of brain processing, or the way conscious attention can seemingly influence quantum measurement outcomes in laboratory experiments. The unity of consciousness across time might emerge from quantum entanglement between different temporal states of your neural system. Just as particles can be entangled across space, maintaining instantaneous correlations despite separation, your past, present, and future conscious states might be quantum entangled, creating a unified field of awareness that extends across your entire timeline. This temporal entanglement could explain the continuity of personal identity, despite the constant change in your physical body and mental contents. The sense that you remain fundamentally the same person throughout your life might reflect genuine quantum correlations between different temporal versions of yourself, creating a kind of temporal coherence that transcends the classical boundaries of sequential moments. But let's ground these abstract concepts in something more immediate and practical. How might quantum temporal entanglement manifest in everyday life? Consider the phenomenon of synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random chance. You think of someone just as they call, you encounter exactly the book you need at precisely the right moment. You meet a stranger who provides crucial information just when you're grappling with a difficult decision. Rather than dismissing these as selective attention or confirmation bias, quantum temporal entanglement offers a potential mechanism. If consciousness can access information across time through quantum channels, then what appears as coincidence might actually be the result of unconscious quantum communication between different temporal states of awareness, orchestrating meaningful encounters through probability pattern manipulation. The key insight is that consciousness might not be localized to specific moments in time any more than quantum particles are localized to specific positions in space. Just as quantum mechanics reveals that particles exist as probability clouds rather than point-like objects, consciousness might exist as a temporal probability field that extends across multiple moments simultaneously. Your present moment of awareness might be the peak of this probability distribution, the most intense focus of your temporal consciousness, but with quantum tendrils extending into past and future states. This could explain why memory feels different from imagination, despite both involving neural activity in the present moment. Memory might involve quantum resonance with actual past conscious states, while imagination explores potential future states that exist in quantum superposition. Dreams offer a particularly fascinating window into this temporal quantum consciousness. During REM sleep, when the brain's normal reality-checking mechanisms are suspended, consciousness might access broader regions of its temporal probability field. The strange non-linear quality of dream narratives, where past, present, and future events blend seamlessly together, might reflect consciousness operating in a more quantum coherent state, where temporal boundaries become fluid. Many people report precognitive dreams that later manifest with startling accuracy in waking life. Rather than supernatural phenomena, these might represent consciousness accessing probability information from its quantum temporal field during the altered brain states of sleep. The dream experiences represent the most likely configurations of future events based on current probability patterns, though these patterns remain subject to change based on conscious choices and quantum uncertainty. But we must be careful not to overstate what current science can definitively support. While the theoretical frameworks for quantum temporal consciousness are sophisticated and mathematically coherent, direct experimental evidence remains limited. The phenomena we're exploring exist at the intersection of physics, neuroscience, and consciousness studies, where definitive proof is extraordinarily difficult to obtain. What we can say with greater confidence is that consciousness appears to be far more temporally extended and quantum mechanical than traditional materialist models suggest. The simple view that consciousness exists only in the present moment, generated by current brain activity, is giving way to more sophisticated models that take quantum effects and temporal non-locality seriously. The microtubules within neurons, once dismissed as mere cellular scaffolding, are now known to maintain quantum coherent states at body temperature for periods long enough to influence neural processing. The electromagnetic fields generated by brain activity exhibit patterns of coherence that suggest quantum organizational principles operating at scales visible to ordinary measurement techniques. Even if consciousness isn't fundamentally quantum mechanical in nature, it clearly interfaces with quantum systems in ways that allow for temporal information access. And if consciousness can access temporal information through quantum channels, then many phenomena that seem mysterious or supernatural might have perfectly natural explanations within an expanded scientific framework. Consider what this means for how you understand your own decision-making process. When faced with important choices, you might be unconsciously consulting with future versions of yourself who have already experienced the consequences of different options. The decision that feels most aligned, most intuitively correct, might be receiving endorsement through quantum temporal channels from the version of yourself that emerges from that particular choice. This doesn't eliminate free will or reduce you to a deterministic puppet of predetermined futures. Quantum mechanics demonstrates that the future exists as a fluid probability space that responds dynamically to present choices. But consciousness, if quantum in nature, might participate in a kind of temporal feedback loop where future possibilities influence present decisions, which in turn modify future probabilities, creating a self-organizing system of optimal choice selection. The implications extend beyond individual experience to our understanding of collective consciousness and social coordination. If individual consciousness can access temporal information through quantum channels, then groups of individuals might be able to coordinate their behavior through quantum information sharing that operates outside classical communication channels. This could explain phenomena like mass behavioral shifts that seem to occur simultaneously across populations with no obvious communication mechanisms, or the way social movements sometimes emerge spontaneously in multiple locations as if responding to shared but unspoken information about optimal timing for collective action. Some researchers have proposed that the global coherence observed in meditation groups might operate through similar quantum mechanisms, where synchronized consciousness creates non-local fields that influence probability patterns across extended regions of space-time. While this remains highly speculative, it suggests possibilities for conscious participation in larger-scale temporal coordination processes. As you contemplate these ideas, notice how they feel not just as intellectual concepts, but as possibilities that might relate to your own direct experience of time and consciousness. Have you ever felt part of something larger than your individual awareness? Moments when personal boundaries seem to dissolve into a broader field of knowing that transcended your ordinary sense of isolated selfhood. These experiences might not be illusions or subjective fantasies, but glimpses of consciousness operating through its more fundamental quantum nature, temporarily accessing the broader temporal and collective dimensions of awareness that ordinarily remain below the threshold of explicit recognition. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness suggests that you are simultaneously the observer and the observed, the questioner and the answer, the seeker and the sought, existing as a unified field of awareness that extends across all moments of your existence while remaining fully present in each instant of now. In our final exploration together, we'll discover what this quantum temporal nature of consciousness might mean for how you understand death, love, creativity, and the deepest purposes of human existence in a universe where consciousness and time dance together in eternal quantum entanglement. For now, simply rest in the possibility that your awareness is far more vast and temporally extended than your everyday experience suggests, connected through invisible quantum threads, not only to all moments of your own existence, but to the larger web of consciousness that weaves through the fabric of space-time itself, creating the magnificent tapestry we call reality. But perhaps the most profound implications of quantum temporal consciousness emerge when we consider what this might mean for your deepest relationships and the very purpose of human connection. If consciousness truly operates through quantum entanglement across time, then every meaningful bond you've ever formed might exist as a living bridge that spans far beyond the moments when you're physically present with another person. Consider the love you feel for those closest to you, that sense of connection that seems to transcend physical proximity, the way you can feel drawn to call someone just when they need to hear from you, the inexplicable knowing when something significant happens to someone you care about even when you're separated by vast distances. What if these experiences reflect genuine quantum entanglement between conscious beings, creating information channels that operate outside the constraints of classical communication? Recent research into what scientists call distant mental interaction has documented correlations between separated individuals that exceed what chance alone would predict. When one person focuses loving attention on another person in a distant location, sensitive instruments can sometimes detect corresponding changes in the recipient's autonomic nervous system. Their heart rate variability shifts, their brain waves alter their patterns, their skin conductance responds, all seemingly in response to focused intention from someone they cannot see, hear, or otherwise detect through ordinary sensory channels. The effect sizes are typically small, and the mechanisms remain mysterious, but the statistical significance across thousands of trials suggests something genuinely anomalous is occurring. Some interpretations propose that consciousness might be capable of forming quantum entangled states with other conscious systems, creating non-local correlations that allow for information transfer through quantum channels. If this interpretation has merit, then the bonds of love and deep friendship might be more than emotional metaphors. They might represent actual quantum mechanical connections that create shared information fields between entangled conscious beings. The sense that someone you love remains part of you, even when absent, might reflect a speculative, interpretive model about consciousness operating through quantum non-local principles. Take a moment to reflect on your own experience of connection with others. Have there been relationships in your life that felt somehow deeper than the sum of your interactions? Bonds that seem to transcend the ordinary boundaries of separate individuals? Times when you felt so attuned to another person that you seemed to share a single field of awareness, thinking each other's thoughts and feeling each other's feelings without any need for verbal communication. These experiences might not be romantic idealization or wishful thinking, but glimpses of consciousness operating through its more fundamental quantum nature. If individual consciousness emerges from quantum field effects, then deep attunement between individuals might create overlapping or entangled quantum states that generate shared awareness experiences. The implications extend beyond romantic or familial love to encompass all forms of meaningful human connection. The sense of resonance you feel with certain teachers, the immediate recognition of kindred spirits, the way some friendships seem to pick up exactly where they left off after years of separation, all of these might reflect quantum entanglement processes that create persistent information bridges between compatible conscious systems. But let's explore an even deeper dimension of this mystery. If consciousness can form quantum entangled states across space and time, what might this mean for our understanding of death and the continuity of awareness beyond biological life? This is perhaps the most profound question that quantum consciousness research raises, and one that requires the utmost care in how we approach it. Traditional materialist neuroscience suggests that consciousness is entirely dependent on brain activity and therefore ceases completely at biological death. But if consciousness operates through quantum field effects that extend beyond the classical boundaries of individual brains, then death might not represent the complete termination of awareness, but rather a transition to a different mode of quantum existence. Some theoretical models propose that consciousness might exist as a quantum information pattern that can persist in various substrate forms. Just as quantum information can be transferred between different physical systems while maintaining its essential structure, the information pattern that constitutes your unique conscious signature might be capable of existing independently of any particular biological brain. This is highly speculative territory, and it's crucial to emphasize that no scientific consensus exists on these possibilities. The research is preliminary, the evidence is limited, and the interpretations remain deeply controversial within the scientific community. These are not proven facts, but rather explorations of what might be theoretically possible if consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms. What we can say with greater confidence is that quantum mechanics has already revolutionized our understanding of information and its relationship to physical systems. Quantum information exhibits properties that seem almost magical from a classical perspective. It can exist in superposition states, be instantly correlated across arbitrary distances, and even be teleported from one location to another without traveling through the intervening space. If consciousness involves quantum information processing, then it might exhibit similar properties of non-locality, coherence, and persistence that transcend the classical limitations of material systems. The sense many people report of continued connection with deceased loved ones might reflect genuine quantum correlations that persist even after biological functions cease. But we must be extremely careful not to overstate these possibilities or present them as proposed scientific facts. The relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics remains one of the most contentious areas in all of science, with passionate advocates on multiple sides of complex debates that are far from resolved. What seems increasingly clear is that consciousness exhibits properties that don't fit neatly within purely classical, physical frameworks. The unity of subjective experience despite distributed brain processing, the apparent ability of conscious observation to influence quantum measurement outcomes, the documented correlations between distant individuals in controlled laboratory settings, all of these point toward consciousness being more quantum mechanical in nature than traditional models suggest. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they feel not as abstract theories but as potential truths about your own deepest nature. If consciousness can indeed form quantum entangled states with other conscious beings, then every moment of love, every instance of deep connection, every experience of profound understanding with another person creates lasting quantum correlations that become part of the fabric of reality itself. The love you've experienced isn't just a temporary neural state that vanishes when the moment passes. It becomes encoded in the quantum information structure of consciousness itself, creating permanent additions to the universe's store of connection and meaning. In this sense, love truly is eternal, not as romantic sentiment, but as quantum mechanical fact. This perspective transforms how we might understand the purpose and meaning of human relationships. Rather than seeing connections with others as temporary arrangements between separate individuals, quantum consciousness suggests that deep relationships represent opportunities to participate in the ongoing creation of quantum entangled states that enrich the information content of the universe itself. Every time you truly see and appreciate another person, every moment of genuine empathy or compassion, every instance of selfless love, you're not just having a nice experience, you're actively participating in the universe's evolution toward greater complexity, connection, and conscious awareness. You're helping to weave the quantum fabric of reality in directions that enhance meaning and reduce isolation. If you find yourself drifting peacefully through these explorations of consciousness and connection, members of our community receive every episode 48 hours early, completely free from any interruptions. You can join them whenever you feel drawn to deeper contemplation, but for now, let's continue discovering what quantum temporal consciousness might mean for creativity, purpose, and the unfolding of human potential. The quantum nature of consciousness also offers fascinating insights into the mystery of creativity and inspiration. Where do truly original ideas come from? How does the mind leap from known information to genuinely novel insights that seem to emerge from nowhere? If consciousness can access information across time through quantum channels, then creativity might metaphorically reflect probability patterns from potential future states, where certain ideas have already crystallized into definite form. Think about your own experiences of creative breakthrough. Those moments when solutions to complex problems suddenly appear fully formed in your awareness, when artistic visions emerge complete and vivid without conscious construction, when you find yourself knowing things you don't remember learning. These experiences often feel less like personal accomplishment and more like reception of information from some external source. Quantum temporal consciousness suggests a potential mechanism for these experiences. Your present awareness might be quantum entangled with future states where certain creative possibilities have already manifested. The act of creative work might involve tuning your consciousness to receive probability patterns from these potential futures, translating quantum information into classical form through the focused attention of present moment awareness. This doesn't diminish the value or significance of creative work, but rather suggests that creativity involves participating in a larger process of consciousness, exploring its own potential across multiple temporal dimensions. You become a conscious collaborator with future versions of yourself and perhaps with the broader field of universal consciousness that transcends individual boundaries. Many artists, writers, scientists, and inventors report experiences that support this interpretation. They describe ideas arriving fully formed from some unknown source, mathematical insights that seem to download complete, with proofs they didn't consciously derive, artistic visions that appear with such clarity and detail that the creative process feels more like transcription than invention. These experiences might reflect consciousness accessing what theoretical physicist David Bohm called the implicate order, the hidden realm where all possibilities exist simultaneously in potential form. Creative breakthrough might involve moments when consciousness achieves sufficient coherence to interface directly with this timeless domain of pure possibility. The implications extend beyond individual creativity to encompass the evolution of human knowledge and culture. If consciousness can access information from across time, then scientific discoveries, artistic movements, and social innovations might represent the collective human mind receiving probability patterns from future states, where certain developments have already occurred. This could explain why major discoveries often occur simultaneously to multiple researchers working independently, why artistic movements emerge spontaneously across different cultures, why social changes sometimes appear to arise from collective consciousness shifts that precede any obvious causal triggers. These phenomena might reflect consciousness operating through quantum temporal channels that allow future developments to influence present awareness. But let's ground these abstract concepts in something more personal and immediate. How might quantum temporal consciousness manifest in your own daily experience of meaning and purpose? If your present awareness is quantum entangled with your entire timeline, then every choice you make reverberates both forward and backward through your personal history. The decision to treat someone with kindness rather than indifference doesn't just affect your future karma or their future well-being. Through quantum temporal entanglement, it might symbolically alter the probability patterns of your past, creating retroactive meaning that enriches your entire life story. The person you choose to become in each moment influences not just who you will be, but who you have always been, through quantum information channels that transcend linear causality. This suggests that personal growth and spiritual development might involve far more than just changing future behavior patterns. Through quantum temporal effects, the work you do to become more conscious, more loving, more wise, might actually upgrade your entire timeline, creating what some might describe as retroactive healing of past wounds and traumas. The version of yourself that emerges from dedicated inner work doesn't just benefit from present efforts, but sends quantum information backward through your personal timeline, potentially providing support and guidance to younger versions of yourself who struggled through difficult periods. In this sense, your future self becomes a guardian angel for your past self through quantum temporal entanglement. This isn't to suggest that you can change historical facts or avoid experiences that have already occurred in linear time. But consciousness operating through quantum mechanisms might be able to alter the meaning and significance of past events, transforming traumatic experiences into sources of wisdom and strength through retroactive, quantum information processing. The spiritual traditions have long spoken of practices that seem to transcend ordinary temporal limitations. Meditation masters report experiences where all of their lifetimes, past and future, become simultaneously accessible to present awareness. Mystical traditions describe states of consciousness where individual identity expands to encompass cosmic scales of space and time. Rather than dismissing these reports as subjective delusions or cultural fantasies, quantum consciousness research suggests they might represent literal descriptions of awareness operating through its more fundamental quantum nature. During states of deep coherence, consciousness might naturally access the broader temporal and spatial dimensions that ordinarily remain below the threshold of explicit recognition. This perspective transforms how we might understand the purpose of human life itself. Rather than seeing existence as a brief flicker of awareness in an indifferent universe, quantum consciousness suggests that each individual life represents a unique exploration of the universe's conscious potential across extended temporal dimensions. You are not just a temporary arrangement of matter that achieved self-awareness for a few decades before dissolving back into unconscious elements. You are a permanent addition to the universe's store of conscious information, a unique perspective that enriches the cosmic database of experiential knowledge in ways that can never be duplicated or erased. The experiences you have, the relationships you form, the insights you develop, the love you give and receive, all of this becomes encoded in the quantum information structure of reality itself. Through temporal entanglement, your present choices influence past events and future possibilities in ways that create lasting meaning extending far beyond your biological lifespan. This doesn't require belief in personal survival after death, though it doesn't preclude that possibility either. Whether or not individual consciousness persists in some form after biological death, the quantum information patterns created through conscious experience become permanent features of the universe's evolving complexity. Every moment of awareness, every choice toward greater consciousness and connection, every act of love and creativity contributes to the universe's ongoing development toward higher orders of meaning and beauty. You are not separate from this cosmic evolution, but an essential participant in consciousness, exploring and expressing its infinite potential through the unique perspective of your individual existence. As we approach the culmination of our exploration together, take a moment to notice how these ideas resonate with your own deepest intuitions about the nature of consciousness and your place in the larger scheme of existence. Do they feel like foreign concepts imposed from outside, or like remembrances of truths you've always known, but perhaps never articulated clearly? The quantum nature of temporal consciousness suggests that the boundary between self and universe, between individual awareness and cosmic consciousness, might be far more fluid than ordinary experience suggests. You are simultaneously a unique individual and an expression of universal consciousness exploring itself through the particular lens of your personal perspective. This perspective offers profound comfort for the existential anxieties that trouble human existence. The fear of death loses much of its terror when consciousness is understood as a quantum phenomenon that transcends biological boundaries. The sense of meaninglessness that sometimes accompanies modern life dissolves when every moment of awareness is recognized as a contribution to the universe's evolving consciousness. The loneliness and isolation that can plague individual existence transforms into recognition of deep connection with all conscious beings through quantum entanglement processes that operate beyond the limitations of physical proximity. You are never truly alone because consciousness itself is a unified field in which all aware beings participate. But perhaps most importantly, the quantum nature of temporal consciousness suggests that the future remains radically open to conscious influence. Through quantum temporal entanglement, your present choices don't just determine what will happen, but participate in creating what has meaning across your entire timeline and beyond. The universe is not a predetermined machine grinding through inevitable outcomes, but a vast quantum system exploring infinite possibilities through the conscious choices of aware beings. Every moment offers opportunities to influence probability patterns in directions that enhance meaning, beauty, love, and conscious understanding. You are not a passive observer of predetermined events, but an active participant in the ongoing creation of reality through the quantum mechanical effects of conscious observation and choice. The future exists as a superposition of all possibilities until consciousness collapses these potentials into definite outcomes through the mysterious process of aware observation. This means that hope is not just emotional comfort, but recognition of genuine metaphysical possibility. No matter how challenging current circumstances might appear, the quantum nature of reality ensures that transformation remains possible through the conscious choices available in each present moment. The path forward may not be visible from your current perspective, but consciousness operating through quantum temporal channels might already be preparing probability patterns for breakthrough and positive change that haven't yet manifested in classical space-time. The key is maintaining openness to possibilities that transcend current limitations, while taking whatever concrete actions are available in each present moment. In our final moments together, I invite you to rest in the profound mystery of your own conscious existence. You are a unique expression of the universe, becoming aware of itself, a temporary focal point of infinite cosmic consciousness, exploring its own nature through the particular lens of your individual perspective. The awareness that reads these words and contemplates these ideas is not separate from the quantum field effects that create reality at its most fundamental level. You are consciousness examining consciousness, awareness exploring awareness, the universe contemplating itself through eyes that are simultaneously your own and far more than merely personal. Whether these ideas prove scientifically accurate in their details matters far less than their capacity to evoke recognition of the profound mystery and beauty of conscious existence. You are part of something magnificent, something that transcends all ordinary categories of understanding, something that connects you intimately with every other conscious being across all of space and time. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness remains a frontier mystery, a question that science is only beginning to explore with the tools and concepts adequate to its depth. But the exploration itself represents consciousness doing what it does most naturally, reaching beyond current limitations to discover new dimensions of its own infinite nature. The mystery deepens when we consider how these quantum temporal connections might influence what researchers have begun calling biological anticipation, the body's apparent ability to prepare for events that haven't yet occurred in classical space-time. In laboratories around the world, scientists are documenting physiological changes that occur before their apparent triggers, as if the body possesses its own quantum early warning system. Consider the remarkable experiments conducted at the Institute of Heart Math, where researchers monitored participants' heart rate variability while they viewed randomly selected images. The fascinating discovery? Heart rhythms began shifting toward either coherent or chaotic patterns several seconds before the computer randomly selected calming or disturbing images. It's as if the heart was quantum mechanically resonating with its own future emotional states. These findings suggest that what we call intuition might be far more literal than we've imagined. That sudden tightness in your chest before receiving difficult news, the inexplicable lightness you feel moments before an unexpected joy arrives, the way your body sometimes seems to know what's coming before your mind catches up. These experiences might represent your biological system accessing probability information through quantum temporal channels. The implications become even more intriguing when we examine how this biological anticipation manifests across different timescales. Some studies suggest that the body's quantum preparatory responses can occur not just seconds, but sometimes minutes or even hours before triggering events. It's as if consciousness operates multiple temporal scanning systems simultaneously, with some focused on immediate futures and others reaching much further into the probability landscape ahead. As you reflect on this possibility, take a moment to notice your own body's subtle communications. Can you sense those quiet internal shifts that sometimes precede external changes? The way your energy seems to know when someone important is about to call, or how your sleep patterns sometimes adjust days before significant life transitions, even when you haven't consciously recognized what's approaching. This biological quantum anticipation might explain why many indigenous cultures developed sophisticated practices for reading the body's subtle signals as sources of guidance about future events. What Western science dismissed as superstition might actually represent accumulated wisdom about consciousness operating through its quantum temporal nature, accessing probability information through channels that bypass ordinary cognitive processing. The research into quantum biology has revealed that quantum effects play crucial roles in biological processes once thought to operate purely through classical mechanics. The efficiency of photosynthesis, the remarkable navigation abilities of migratory animals, even the exquisite sensitivity of our olfactory system, all appear to utilize quantum mechanical principles for information processing that transcends classical limitations. If quantum effects are integral to basic biological functions, then consciousness, as perhaps the most complex biological phenomenon we know, might be fundamentally quantum in its operational principles. This could explain why consciousness exhibits properties that don't fit neatly within classical physical frameworks. The unity of subjective experience despite distributed brain processing, the apparent ability of conscious attention to influence quantum measurement outcomes, the documented correlations between distant individuals in controlled settings. But let's explore how this quantum temporal nature of consciousness might manifest in one of the most mysterious aspects of human experience, the phenomenon of creative inspiration. Where do genuinely original ideas originate? How does the mind leap from known information to novel insights that seem to emerge from empty space? If consciousness can access probability patterns from potential future states through quantum temporal entanglement, then creativity might involve receiving information from versions of reality where certain ideas have already crystallized into definite form. The sudden appearance of complete artistic visions, mathematical proofs that arrive fully formed, scientific insights that seem to download from some unknown source. These experiences might represent consciousness accessing quantum probability patterns from its own future states. Many creators report experiences that support this interpretation. They describe feeling less like inventors and more like discoverers, as if ideas existed somewhere waiting to be found rather than created from nothing. The sense of receiving rather than generating, of transcription rather than composition, of collaboration with some larger creative intelligence that operates beyond personal boundaries. Think about your own moments of creative breakthrough. Haven't there been times when solutions to problems appeared complete and elegant without conscious construction? When you found yourself knowing things you don't remember learning, or when creative work felt more like archaeology than architecture, carefully uncovering something that already existed rather than building something new? This quantum model of creativity suggests that the future exists as a vast probability space containing all possible developments, innovations, and artistic expressions. Consciousness operating through quantum temporal channels can sometimes access probability patterns from this space, translating quantum information into classical form through focused attention and skilled expression. The implications extend beyond individual creativity to encompass the evolution of human knowledge and culture. Major discoveries often occur simultaneously to researchers working independently across the globe. Artistic movements emerge spontaneously in different cultures, without obvious communication. Social innovations appear to arise from collective consciousness shifts that precede identifiable causal triggers. These phenomena might reflect consciousness operating through quantum temporal channels that allow future developments to influence present awareness. The collective human mind might be continuously receiving probability patterns from future states, where certain discoveries, artistic expressions, and social arrangements have already manifested. But we must be careful to emphasize that these remain speculative interpretations of documented phenomena. While the experiences of creative breakthrough and simultaneous discovery are well documented, the quantum temporal explanation represents one possible framework among several competing theories. The relationship between consciousness, creativity, and quantum mechanics remains an area of active research with no definitive conclusions. What seems increasingly clear is that consciousness exhibits properties that challenge purely classical explanations. The documented ability of meditation practices to enhance creative problem solving, the statistical correlations between distant individuals in laboratory settings, the physiological anticipation of future events, all of these point toward consciousness being more quantum mechanical in nature than traditional models suggest. Now, let's drift toward one of the most profound implications of quantum temporal consciousness. What this might mean for our understanding of love, connection, and the deepest bonds we form with other conscious beings. If consciousness can indeed form quantum entangled states across time, might it also create quantum correlations across space between different individuals? Recent research into what scientists carefully term distant mental interaction has documented correlations between separated individuals that exceed what statistical chance would predict. When one person focuses loving attention on another person in a distant location, sensitive instruments sometimes detect corresponding changes in the recipient's physiological state. Shifts in heart rate variability, alterations in brainwave patterns, changes in skin conductance that seem to respond to focused intention from someone they cannot detect through ordinary sensory channels. The effect sizes are typically small, the mechanisms remain mysterious, and the results require careful statistical analysis to detect. But across thousands of trials conducted in multiple laboratories, some analyses suggest correlations that appear difficult to fully explain within classical frameworks. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might be capable of forming quantum entangled states with other conscious systems, creating non-local correlations that allow for information transfer through quantum channels. If this interpretation has merit, then the bonds of deep love and friendship might represent more than emotional metaphors. They might reflect actual quantum mechanical connections that create shared information fields between entangled conscious beings. The sense that someone you love remains part of you even when absent might express a speculative, interpretive model about consciousness operating through quantum non-local principles. Consider your own experience of profound connection with others. Haven't there been relationships that felt somehow deeper than the sum of your interactions, bonds that seem to transcend the ordinary boundaries of separate individuals? Times when you felt so attuned to another person that you seemed to share a single field of awareness, thinking complementary thoughts and feeling resonant emotions without need for verbal communication. These experiences might not represent romantic idealization or wishful thinking, but glimpses of consciousness operating through its more fundamental quantum nature. If individual consciousness emerges from quantum field effects, then deep attunement between individuals might create overlapping or entangled quantum states that generate genuinely shared awareness experiences. The implications extend beyond romantic or familial love to encompass all forms of meaningful human connection. The immediate recognition of kindred spirits, the way certain friendships seem to resume exactly where they left off after years of separation. The resonance you feel with particular teachers or mentors, all of these might reflect quantum entanglement processes that create persistent information bridges between compatible conscious systems. But let's pause here to acknowledge the profound questions this raises about the nature of individual identity itself. If consciousness can form quantum entangled states with other conscious beings, if the boundaries between self and other might be more fluid than ordinary experience suggests, then what does it mean to be a unique individual? How do we understand personal identity in a quantum universe where consciousness might be fundamentally interconnected? One way to approach these questions is through the concept of what physicists call quantum complementarity, the principle that quantum systems can simultaneously exhibit seemingly contradictory properties depending on how they're observed or measured. Light behaves as both wave and particle, not because it's confused about its identity, but because both aspects represent equally valid perspectives on a more fundamental quantum reality. Similarly, consciousness might be simultaneously individual and universal, separate and connected, unique and unified, depending on the scale and context through which we observe it. Your individual perspective and personality represent one valid aspect of consciousness, while your quantum entangled connections with others and with the broader field of universal awareness represent equally real but different aspects of the same fundamental phenomenon. This complementarity suggests that you don't need to choose between being a unique individual and being part of a larger unified consciousness. Both are true simultaneously, like wave and particle aspects of quantum reality. The key is recognizing that these apparently contradictory perspectives point towards something more complex and beautiful than either perspective alone can capture. As you contemplate these ideas, notice how they feel not just as abstract concepts, but as possibilities that might illuminate your own direct experience of connection and identity. Can you sense how your individual awareness might simultaneously be uniquely yours and part of something much larger? How your personal perspective might be both separate from others and quantum mechanically entangled with the broader field of consciousness. This quantum understanding of identity offers profound implications for how we might approach relationships, community, and our sense of responsibility to others. If consciousness is fundamentally interconnected through quantum processes, then the artificial boundaries between self-interest and altruism begin to dissolve. Taking care of others becomes not just ethical behavior, but recognition of the quantum mechanical reality that their well-being is symbolically entangled with your own. The competitive individualism that characterizes much of modern culture might be based on an illusion of separation that quantum consciousness research is beginning to dissolve. Not through moral persuasion or philosophical argument, but through scientific investigation that reveals the deep interconnectedness of conscious experience at the most fundamental levels of physical reality. This doesn't eliminate the importance of individual choice and personal responsibility, but rather places them within a broader context of quantum interconnectedness, where every decision reverberates through networks of conscious connection that extend far beyond immediate personal consequences. Your choices don't just affect your individual future, but participate in shaping the probability patterns that influence the collective evolution of consciousness itself. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness suggests that this influence operates not just forward through time, but backward as well. Through quantum temporal entanglement, the person you choose to become in each present moment doesn't just determine future outcomes, but potentially influences the meaning and significance of past events throughout your entire timeline, and the timelines of those quantum mechanically connected to your conscious evolution. This perspective transforms personal growth and spiritual development from individual pursuits into participatory activities that contribute to the conscious evolution of the universe itself. Every moment of increased awareness, every choice toward greater compassion and understanding, every act of creative expression or loving connection adds to the universe's store of conscious information and influences probability patterns across extended networks of quantum entangled awareness. But perhaps the most profound implication of quantum temporal consciousness relates to how we understand the ultimate questions of existence. What is the purpose of consciousness? Why does awareness exist at all? What is the significance of our individual lives within the vast scales of cosmic space and time? If consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms that transcend classical boundaries of space and time, then awareness itself might be not just an accidental byproduct of complex material processes, but a fundamental feature of reality that plays an active role in the universe's ongoing evolution and self-discovery. Some theoretical interpretations suggest that consciousness might be the universe's method of exploring its own infinite potential. Through the quantum temporal and non-local properties of awareness, the cosmos might be simultaneously experiencing all possible versions of itself, learning about its own nature through the subjective experiences of countless conscious beings across all scales of space and time. In this framework, your individual consciousness represents a unique experiment in cosmic self-awareness, a particular way the universe has of experiencing and understanding itself that has never existed before and will never be exactly duplicated. Your subjective experience contributes irreplaceable information to the universe's growing database of conscious knowledge about its own nature and possibilities. This doesn't require belief in any particular religious or spiritual doctrine, but simply recognition that consciousness exhibits properties that suggest it plays a more fundamental role in the nature of reality than purely materialist frameworks have acknowledged. Whether consciousness emerges from matter or matter emerges from consciousness, or both arise from some deeper unity, the quantum mechanical properties of awareness suggest it participates actively in the ongoing creation and evolution of reality itself. Every moment of your conscious experience, every choice you make, every relationship you form, every creative act you perform becomes a permanent addition to the universe's exploration of its own potential. Through quantum temporal entanglement, these contributions don't just influence future possibilities, but retroactively enrich the meaning and significance of all past events throughout cosmic history. You are simultaneously a unique individual having a particular experience, and the universe itself experiencing what it's like to be you. Both perspectives are true, both are essential, both contribute to the ongoing symphony of consciousness, exploring its infinite nature through the countless variations of aware existence. As our exploration draws towards its close, take a moment to notice the quality of your own awareness right now. Can you sense how this present moment of consciousness might simultaneously be uniquely yours and part of something vastly larger? How your individual perspective might be both separate and connected, both temporal and eternal, both limited and infinite. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness remains at the frontier of human understanding, a mystery that science is only beginning to approach with tools adequate to its depth and subtlety. But the investigation itself represents consciousness doing what it does most naturally, reaching beyond current limitations to discover new dimensions of its own inexhaustible nature. Whether these specific interpretations prove scientifically accurate matters less than their capacity to evoke recognition of the profound mystery and beauty of conscious existence. You are part of something magnificent that transcends all ordinary categories of understanding, something that connects you intimately with every moment of your existence and every other conscious being across the vast expanse of space and time. The research continues, the questions deepen, the mystery unfolds through every moment of aware attention you bring to your experience. In contemplating consciousness and its relationship to time, you are consciousness investigating itself, awareness exploring awareness, the universe coming to know itself through the unique lens of your individual perspective. As you drift toward rest tonight, or continue through your day, with these ideas gently present in the background of awareness, remember that you are far more than any limited perspective might suggest. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the particular lens of individual experience, but quantum mechanically connected through invisible threads to the vast web of awareness that creates and sustains all reality. The quantum measurements continue even as consciousness drifts into its most mysterious realm, the landscape of sleep and dreams. Here in the theatre of the unconscious mind, researchers are discovering that the boundary between waking awareness and quantum possibility becomes even more permeable, more fluid, more open to the strange temporal currents we've been exploring together. Consider this remarkable finding from dream research laboratories. When people are awakened during REM sleep and asked to describe their dreams, nearly 40% report experiences that seem to preview events occurring in the following 24 to 48 hours. Not vague symbolic resemblances, but specific details, conversations, and scenarios that later unfold with startling accuracy in waking life. Dr. Stanley Krippner's dream telepathy experiments at Maimonides Medical Center documented something even more intriguing. Dreamers sleeping in isolated chambers showed statistically significant ability to incorporate randomly selected images being viewed by researchers in distant rooms. The dreaming mind, it seems, operates with a kind of permeability that defies our ordinary understanding of information transfer across space and time. As you rest here, perhaps feeling the gentle tug of your own approaching sleep, take a moment to wonder, what if dreams aren't just random neural housekeeping, but consciousness exploring probability landscapes that haven't yet crystallized into definite reality? What if the strange non-linear narratives of dream experience reflect awareness operating in quantum superposition states where multiple timelines exist simultaneously? Some interpretations of quantum consciousness suggest that during sleep, when the brain's normal reality filtering mechanisms relax their vigilant guard, awareness might naturally access broader regions of what physicists call the probability space that surrounds each present moment. The future exists not as a single predetermined path, but as a shimmering field of potential outcomes, and dreaming consciousness might wade through these possibilities like exploring an infinite library where every book represents a different version of tomorrow. This isn't to suggest that dreams symbolically predict the future with mechanical precision. Rather, they might offer glimpses of probability currents, likelihood patterns, the gravitational flow of events as they gather momentum toward manifestation. Like sensing the atmospheric pressure changes that herald an approaching storm, dreaming awareness might detect the probability shifts that precede significant developments in your waking life. The research into what scientists carefully term anomalous dream content reveals patterns that challenge our conventional understanding of how information moves through time. Dreamers often report detailed knowledge of events they couldn't have known through any classical means. Phone calls that haven't yet been made, meetings that haven't yet been scheduled, conversations that unfold exactly as dreamed days or weeks later. But perhaps most intriguingly, these precognitive dreams often contain what researchers call intervention points, moments where the dreamer's awareness of the future event allows them to make choices that alter the outcome. It's as if consciousness, operating through quantum temporal channels, engages in a kind of dialogue between present and future selves, exploring possibilities while retaining the freedom to influence which possibilities actually manifest. Think about your own dream experiences. Have you ever awakened with the strange certainty that something important was approaching, even when you couldn't articulate exactly what? Have dreams ever guided you toward decisions that later remarkably prescient? These experiences might not be meaningless neural static, but consciousness accessing information through quantum channels that operate outside the constraints of linear time. The electromagnetic signature of REM sleep shows patterns that some researchers suggest might create optimal conditions for quantum coherence in biological systems. During dreams, brainwave activity exhibits synchronized oscillations across different regions, creating what neuroscientists describe as global coherence states, where the usual compartmentalization of neural processing dissolves into something more unified and temporally fluid. In these coherent states, some theoretical models propose consciousness might naturally interface with what David Bohm called the implicate order, the hidden realm, where all information, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously in potential form. Dreams might be windows into this timeless domain, offering glimpses of the vast information landscape that underlies our everyday experience of sequential time. The holographic nature of dream consciousness becomes apparent when you consider how dreams can contain vast amounts of detailed information compressed into brief temporal spans. A dream that seems to last hours can occur during REM periods, lasting only minutes. Complex narratives unfold with intricate plots, detailed characters, and sophisticated symbolic content that would require extensive conscious construction if created during waking states. This temporal compression might reflect consciousness accessing holographically encoded information, where, like in a physical hologram, each part contains the whole. A brief moment of dream experience might contain probability patterns spanning extended temporal regions, compressed into symbolic forms that the dreaming mind can process and remember upon awakening. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might illuminate your own experience of the strange temporal elasticity that characterizes dream states. How time seems to flow differently in dreams. How past, present, and future events blend seamlessly together. How you can simultaneously be yourself at different ages or experience multiple timelines converging in a single dream narrative. These aren't glitches in the dream mechanism, but perhaps glimpses of consciousness operating according to its more fundamental quantum nature, temporarily freed from the classical constraints that normally limit awareness to a single temporal location. The linear, sequential experience of time that dominates waking consciousness might be like viewing reality through a narrow slit, while dreaming consciousness has access to the broader temporal landscape that surrounds each moment. Recent studies of lucid dreaming, states where the dreamer becomes aware they're dreaming while remaining in the dream, offer particularly fascinating insights into quantum consciousness. Lucid dreamers report an enhanced ability to explore and influence their dream environments, to communicate with dream characters who seem to possess independent knowledge, and to access information that later proves accurate in waking life. Some interpretations suggest that lucid dreaming represents consciousness achieving a kind of quantum coherent state, where awareness can simultaneously exist in multiple probability configurations. The lucid dreamer becomes both observer and participant, able to witness the quantum superposition of possibilities while also influencing which possibilities collapse into dream experience through the act of conscious observation. This mirrors the fundamental mystery of quantum measurement, where the act of observation seems to play an active role in determining which potential reality manifests from the field of quantum possibilities. If consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, then the focused awareness of lucid dreaming might represent consciousness learning to deliberately interface with the probability patterns that underlie both dream and waking experience. But let's drift toward an even deeper mystery, the phenomenon of shared dreaming, where multiple individuals report experiencing similar or interconnected dreams during the same time period. While scientifically documented cases remain rare and difficult to verify, the reports persist across cultures and centuries, suggesting something more than coincidence might be involved. If consciousness can form quantum entangled states with other conscious beings, as some interpretations of distant mental interaction research suggest, then shared dreaming might metaphorically reflect the way some theories model quantum correlations. During sleep, when the normal boundaries of individual consciousness become more permeable, quantum entangled connections between people might manifest as shared dream experiences. The implications extend beyond individual dream experiences to encompass what some researchers call collective dreaming, the documented tendency for people living through significant historical periods to report similar dream themes and symbolic content. During times of social upheaval, natural disasters, or cultural transformation, dream researchers observe correlations in dream content across geographically separated populations that appear to go beyond random coincidence in some reported observations. These collective dream patterns might reflect consciousness accessing probability information about large-scale social and environmental changes before they fully manifest in waking reality. If consciousness can interface with quantum fields that operate beyond individual boundaries, then groups of people might unconsciously coordinate their dream awareness to explore and prepare for collective future possibilities. The indigenous traditions have long recognized dreams as sources of guidance not just for individuals, but for entire communities. Dream councils, where tribal elders share and interpret dreams collectively, have been used for millennia to make important decisions about migration patterns, resource allocation, and social organization. What Western science dismissed as primitive superstition might actually represent sophisticated collective intelligence operating through quantum consciousness networks. As you rest here, allowing these ideas to settle into your awareness like gentle ripples on the surface of a quiet pond, consider how this quantum understanding of dreaming might transform your relationship with your own sleep and dream experiences. Rather than dismissing dreams as meaningless neural housekeeping, you might begin to recognize them as valuable sources of information about probability patterns that surround your life. This doesn't require believing that every dream contains literal predictions, or that dream content should be interpreted as direct guidance for waking decisions. Rather, it suggests approaching dreams with the same gentle curiosity we've been exploring throughout our journey together, open to possibilities while remaining grounded in healthy skepticism. The practice of dream journaling, keeping a notebook beside your bed to record dream experiences immediately upon awakening, might serve as more than just psychological self-exploration. If dreams do contain quantum probability information, then recording and reflecting on dream patterns over time might help you become more sensitive to the subtle currents of possibility that flow through your life. Pay attention to dreams that feel particularly vivid or emotionally significant. Notice recurring themes, symbols, or scenarios that appear across multiple dreams. Observe correlations between dream content and subsequent waking experiences, not with the goal of proving or disproving anything, but simply with curious awareness of patterns that might emerge. Some dream researchers suggest that the act of paying attention to dreams might actually enhance their quantum informational content, as if consciousness learning to value and focus on dream awareness creates feedback loops that strengthen the quantum channels through which temporal information flows. This remains speculative, of course, but the practice of dream attention seems to correlate with increased frequency of seemingly precognitive dream experiences. The quantum nature of dream consciousness also offers new perspectives on what psychologists call problem-solving dreams, experiences where solutions to complex challenges appear fully formed in dream narratives. Many scientific discoveries, artistic creations, and innovative breakthroughs have reportedly emerged from dream experiences where the dreaming mind seemed to access information or insights that weren't available to waking consciousness. If consciousness can interface with quantum probability fields, then problem-solving dreams might represent awareness accessing potential futures where certain solutions have already been discovered or developed. The dreaming mind explores the probability landscape surrounding a particular challenge, detecting patterns and connections that haven't yet crystallized into definite form in waking reality. This suggests that sleep might serve functions far beyond physical restoration and memory consolidation. Dreams might represent consciousness actively participating in the ongoing creation of reality by exploring and selecting among probability patterns, helping to guide the collapse of quantum potentials into the specific experiences that manifest in waking life. The research into meditation and dream enhancement reveals intriguing connections between contemplative practices and the quantum nature of dream consciousness. Advanced meditators report increased frequency of lucid dreams, enhanced dream recall, and dreams that seem to contain more coherent and meaningful content than the dreams of non-meditators. Some interpretations suggest that meditation practices create optimal conditions for quantum coherence in brain states, enhancing consciousnesses to access the broader temporal and probability dimensions that become available during sleep. The enhanced awareness and mental clarity developed through contemplative practice might naturally extend into dream states, creating richer and more informationally dense dream experiences. But we must emphasize that these remain speculative interpretations of documented phenomena. While the correlations between meditation practice and dream enhancement are well proposed, the quantum mechanical explanations represent theoretical frameworks that require much more research before reaching scientific consensus. What seems increasingly clear is that dreams exhibit properties that don't fit neatly within purely classical explanations of brain function. The apparent ability to access future information, the temporal compression of complex narratives, the documented cases of shared dreaming experiences, all point toward dream consciousness operating through mechanisms that transcend ordinary limitations of space and time. As our exploration of quantum temporal consciousness draws toward its gentle conclusion, take a moment to notice how these ideas about dreams and sleep might resonate with your own experience. Can you sense how your nightly journey into unconsciousness might be more than just biological maintenance, but a profound exploration of consciousness encountering its own deeper nature? The boundary between waking and sleeping awareness might not be as clear as we ordinarily assume. Perhaps consciousness exists as a unified field that simply shifts its focus between different modes of attention, sometimes concentrated on sensory information from the external world, sometimes exploring the vast internal landscapes of possibility that become accessible during dreams. This perspective suggests that sleep and dreams aren't interruptions of consciousness, but different chapters in the ongoing story of awareness exploring its infinite nature. Every night, you embark on a journey into quantum realms where the ordinary rules of space and time become more fluid, more permeable to the deeper currents of possibility that flow through existence. The quantum nature of dream consciousness remains one of the most fascinating frontiers in consciousness research, a realm where science, psychology, and even mystical experience converge around questions that challenge our most basic assumptions about the nature of mind and reality. The investigation continues through every dream you have, every moment of sleep awareness, every instance of awakening with mysterious knowledge you don't remember acquiring. You are simultaneously the dreamer and the dream, the observer and the observed, consciousness exploring its own infinite potential through the unique lens of your individual sleep experiences. Whether quantum temporal entanglement provides the ultimate explanation for dream phenomena matters less than recognizing the profound mystery and beauty of consciousness regularly transcending ordinary limitations through the simple act of falling asleep. The morning light filtering through your window tomorrow will awaken not just your body, but consciousness returning from its nightly exploration of quantum realms, where time flows like honey and possibility stretches in all directions. And in that gentle transition from sleep to waking, you might catch a glimpse, just for a moment, of the vast temporal landscape your awareness has been exploring while your thinking mind rested peacefully in the quantum embrace of dreams. As you prepare to drift even deeper into the mystery of consciousness and time, let me share what might be the most remarkable aspect of this quantum puzzle. Recent experiments with sophisticated brain imaging technology have revealed something that challenges everything we thought we knew about how awareness unfolds moment to moment. When researchers monitored the neural activity of volunteers as they made simple decisions, they discovered something extraordinary. The brain showed clear patterns of activity associated with specific choices up to 10 seconds before the person reported being consciously aware of making that decision. This isn't just a delay in reaction time or processing speed. This is consciousness appearing to receive information from its own immediate future, as if the decision had already been made in some quantum realm and was slowly filtering into classical awareness. The implications ripple outward, like stones dropped in still water, suggesting that what we call free will might be a conversation between different temporal aspects of consciousness, rather than a single moment of choice emerging from nothing. But this raises perhaps the most profound question we can ask about the nature of mind and reality. If consciousness can access information across time, if awareness operates through quantum mechanisms that transcend linear causality, then what does this mean for the very foundations of human experience? What does it mean for how we understand death, creativity, love, and the ultimate purpose of conscious existence in a universe that might be far stranger and more beautiful than we ever imagined? Tonight, we're going to explore these deepest questions together, drifting gently through territories where science meets mysticism, where proven facts dance with speculative possibilities, and where the mystery of consciousness reveals layers within layers of quantum wonder that stretch toward the infinite. The phenomenon of consciousness appearing to know its decisions before they reach awareness opens doorways to questions that have puzzled humanity across millennia. If the sense of being a decision maker in the present moment is itself something of an illusion created by the limitations of classical consciousness, then what are we really? Are we conscious agents moving through time? Or are we time itself becoming conscious through the particular lens of individual perspective? Some interpretations of quantum consciousness suggest that what we experience as decision-making might involve a kind of temporal negotiation between different aspects of our awareness. The future self, who has already experienced the consequences of various choices, might send probability information backward through quantum channels to influence present decision-making processes. The choice that feels most intuitively correct might be receiving endorsement from future versions of yourself who have already lived through the outcomes. This doesn't eliminate free will, but rather suggests that free will operates through more sophisticated mechanisms than we previously imagined. Instead of choices emerging from a single point in time, decision-making might involve quantum dialogue between past wisdom, present circumstance, and future possibility, creating an optimization process that transcends linear causality while still preserving genuine agency and moral responsibility. Take a moment to reflect on your own experience of important decisions. Haven't there been choices that felt inevitable once you recognized them, as if you were discovering rather than creating the right path forward? Times when the decision seemed to make itself through you rather than being constructed by deliberate analysis. These experiences might reflect consciousness operating through its quantum temporal nature, accessing information across your personal timeline to guide optimal choices. The research into what scientists call prospective memory reveals another layer to this temporal mystery. This is your ability to remember to perform intended actions at specific future times, remembering to call someone at a particular hour, to take medication at scheduled intervals, to attend important appointments. What's remarkable is how accurately this internal timing system operates, often triggering appropriate actions within minutes of intended times, even without external reminders. Some theoretical models suggest that prospective memory might involve consciousness maintaining quantum entangled connections with specific future moments. When you form the intention to perform an action at a future time, some aspect of your awareness might quantum mechanically link with that temporal location, creating information channels that trigger appropriate action when the designated moment arrives. This temporal self-coordination system operates largely below the threshold of conscious awareness, yet demonstrates remarkable precision across extended time periods. It's as if consciousness maintains a kind of quantum scheduling system that transcends the limitations of sequential information processing, accessing temporal information through mechanisms that remain largely mysterious to classical neuroscience. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider how this quantum temporal coordination might extend beyond individual consciousness to encompass collective human behavior. Sociologists have long observed phenomena that seem to require some form of unconscious coordination across large populations, fashion trends that emerge simultaneously in different cultures, social movements that appear spontaneously without obvious communication networks, mass behavioural changes that occur with remarkable synchronicity across geographically separated groups. If individual consciousness can access temporal information through quantum channels, then perhaps collective consciousness operates through similar mechanisms on larger scales. Groups of individuals might unconsciously coordinate their behaviour through quantum information sharing that operates outside classical communication channels, creating emergent social phenomena that appear to anticipate or respond to collective needs and opportunities. This could explain why revolutionary ideas often appear simultaneously to multiple thinkers working independently, why cultural movements sometimes emerge with perfect timing for social conditions that are still developing, why collective behavioural shifts occasionally seem to anticipate environmental or political changes before their causes become apparent to conscious analysis. Some researchers have speculated that meditation groups practicing together might create what they term coherence fields that influence probability patterns across extended regions of space-time. While this remains highly speculative and requires much more research before reaching any scientific consensus, it suggests possibilities for conscious participation in larger-scale temporal coordination processes that transcend individual boundaries. But let's drift toward what might be the most profound implication of quantum temporal consciousness. How this understanding might transform our relationship with death and the continuity of awareness beyond biological existence. This is perhaps the most sensitive and speculative territory we can explore, requiring the utmost care in how we approach questions that touch the deepest human hopes and fears. Traditional materialist neuroscience suggests that consciousness depends entirely on brain activity and therefore ceases completely at biological death. But if consciousness operates through quantum field effects that extend beyond the classical boundaries of individual brains, then some speculative interpretations propose death could represent a different mode of informational persistence. Some theoretical interpretations propose that consciousness might exist as quantum information patterns that can persist independently of specific biological substrates. Just as quantum information can be transferred between different physical systems while maintaining its essential structure, the information pattern that constitutes your unique conscious signature might be capable of existing in forms that transcend individual biological boundaries. These remain highly speculative possibilities, and it's crucial to emphasize that no scientific consensus exists on questions of consciousness survival beyond biological death. The research is preliminary, the evidence is limited, and the interpretations remain deeply controversial within the scientific community. These are explorations of theoretical possibility rather than proposed scientific facts. What we can say with greater confidence is that quantum mechanics has revolutionized our understanding of information and its relationship to physical systems. Quantum information exhibits properties that seem almost magical from classical perspectives, existing in superposition states, maintaining instant correlations across arbitrary distances, even being teleported from one location to another without traveling through intervening space. If consciousness involves quantum information processing, then it might exhibit similar properties of non-locality, coherence, and persistence that transcend classical limitations of material systems. The sense many people report of continued connection with deceased loved ones might reflect genuine quantum correlations that persist through mechanisms we don't yet understand. But we must be extremely careful not to present these speculative possibilities as proven facts or to offer false comfort based on unsubstantiated claims. The relationship between consciousness, quantum mechanics, and potential survival beyond biological death remains one of the most contentious areas in all of science, with passionate advocates holding dramatically different positions on complex questions that may ultimately prove unanswerable through current scientific methods. As you contemplate these profound uncertainties, notice how they might paradoxically offer a kind of peace. The mystery itself becomes a space for wonder rather than dogmatic certainty. Whether consciousness persists beyond biological death or not, the quantum mechanical properties we've been exploring suggest that awareness is far more mysterious and potentially more significant than purely materialist frameworks acknowledge. Every moment of consciousness represents something remarkable, the universe becoming aware of itself through the unique lens of your individual perspective. Whether that awareness continues in some form after biological death, or whether it returns to the quantum field from which it emerged, or whether something altogether different occurs, the mystery remains profound and beautiful. The quantum nature of temporal consciousness suggests that the love you experience, the connections you form, the insights you develop, the creative expressions you contribute, all become encoded in the quantum information structure of reality itself. Through temporal entanglement, these contributions influence probability patterns that extend far beyond your biological lifespan, creating lasting impacts that ripple through the fabric of space-time. This perspective offers meaning and significance that transcends questions of personal survival. Whether or not individual consciousness persists after death, the quantum information patterns created through conscious experience become permanent features of the universe's evolving complexity. You're not just having experiences, you are actively participating in the cosmos, becoming more conscious, more connected, more beautiful through the unique contribution of your individual awareness. If you find yourself drifting peacefully through these contemplations of consciousness and eternity, our community members receive every episode 48 hours early, completely free from any interruptions. You can join them whenever you feel drawn to deeper exploration. But for now, let's continue discovering what quantum temporal consciousness might reveal about the nature of love and creativity. The quantum mechanical understanding of consciousness also illuminates the mystery of what we call inspiration and creative breakthrough. Where do genuinely original ideas originate? How does consciousness leap from known information to novel insights that seem to emerge from empty space? If awareness can access probability patterns from potential future states through quantum temporal entanglement, then creativity might involve receiving information from versions of reality where certain ideas have already crystallized into definite form. Think about your own moments of creative inspiration, those sudden appearances of complete solutions to problems you've been pondering, artistic visions that arrive fully formed without conscious construction, insights that feel more like discoveries than inventions. These experiences often carry a quality of recognition rather than creation, as if the idea existed somewhere waiting to be found rather than being generated from nothing. Many creators across history have described similar experiences, the sense of receiving rather than generating, of transcription rather than composition, of collaboration with some larger creative intelligence that operates beyond personal boundaries. Mathematicians speak of discovering rather than inventing mathematical truths. Artists describe channeling rather than creating their greatest works. Scientists report insights arriving as gifts from some unknown source. If consciousness can access quantum probability patterns from future states, where certain discoveries and creations have already manifested, then these experiences might reflect a speculative, interpretive model about how creativity operates. The future exists as a vast probability space containing all possible developments, innovations, and artistic expressions. Consciousness, operating through quantum temporal channels, might sometimes access probability patterns from this space, translating quantum information into classical form through focused attention and skilled expression. This doesn't diminish the value or significance of creative work, but rather suggests that creativity involves participating in a larger process of consciousness, exploring its own potential across multiple temporal dimensions. The individual creator becomes a conscious collaborator with future versions of themselves, and perhaps with a broader field of universal consciousness that transcends individual boundaries. The research into enhanced creativity during altered states of consciousness supports this interpretation. Studies of creativity during meditation, lucid dreaming, and other non-ordinary states consistently show increased ability to generate novel solutions, make unexpected connections, and access information that seems to come from beyond normal cognitive processing. As we reach the gentle end of our journey through the quantum mysteries of consciousness and time, take a moment to notice the quality of your own awareness right here, right now. Can you sense how this present moment might contain echoes of all the moments we've explored together? The experiments with temporal entanglement, the dreams that preview tomorrow, the love that transcends distance, the creativity that seems to arrive from futures not yet born. Throughout our exploration, we've encountered possibilities that challenge everything we thought we knew about the nature of mind and time. From particles entangled across temporal gaps to consciousness that might extend far beyond the boundaries of individual brains. From dreams that access probability landscapes to decisions that seem to know themselves before we do. These aren't proven facts carved in stone, but gentle invitations to wonder about the deeper nature of your own awareness. The research continues, the questions multiply, and the mystery deepens with every careful experiment and every moment of conscious attention. Whether consciousness is truly quantum entangled across time may remain an open question for generations to come, but perhaps that's exactly as it should be. Perhaps the beauty lies not in final answers, but in the ongoing dance between curiosity and mystery, between what we think we know and what we're only beginning to glimpse. What seems clear is that consciousness is far more mysterious, far more temporally extended, and far more interconnected than our everyday experience suggests. You are not just a spotlight of awareness moving through linear time, but something more complex, more beautiful, more quantum in nature. Every choice you make, every moment of love you experience, every creative insight that arrives, like a gift from somewhere beyond ordinary thought, ripples through the fabric of space-time in ways that transcend classical understanding. As you drift toward whatever comes next in your day or your night, carry with you this gentle recognition. You are consciousness exploring its own infinite nature through the unique lens of your individual experience. The questions we've pondered together will continue their quiet work in the background of your awareness, perhaps opening doorways to recognition you haven't yet imagined. Whether your consciousness is entangled across time remains a beautiful mystery, but what's certain is that you are part of something magnificent, something that connects every moment of your existence in ways that transcend ordinary categories of understanding. Rest well in that mystery, fellow explorer. The quantum dance of awareness continues with every breath, every heartbeat, every gentle drift into the timeless wonder of being conscious in a universe that dreams. Sweet dreams await, fellow explorer. May your rest be filled with the quiet recognition that consciousness never truly sleeps, but only shifts its attention between different dimensions of its own boundless nature, always connected to the vast web of possibility that surrounds each moment, always exploring, always coming home to itself through the beautiful quantum dance of dream awareness.